Vamos a escuchar ahora una ponencia de unos 15 minutos para analizar la normativa europea, el nuevo faro de la sostenibilidad. Será a cargo de ISABELLE RYCKBOST. Ella es la secretaria general desde hace más de 11 años de la ESPO, la Organización Europea de Puertos Marítimos. Welcome to Bilbao, ISABELLE RYCKBOST.
Distinguished guests, good morning. Es un placer de estar aquí. Gracias por su invitación. Como mi español es ya más elemental del español de Peter, porque no vivo en España, pero soy de vez en cuando de vacaciones en España, como muchas belgas, voy a hablar en inglés también. So, good morning. So it's a pleasure and thank you to the Port of Bilbao for this nice invitation. Ladies and gentlemen, I think I will also, and I'm happy that what I say is not contrary to what Peter has been analyzing, but I would like to make the analysis or the link as well with the European policy. So as you know, we represent as ESPO the interests of the ports towards the European institutions, and we have had a very busy 5 years, the past 5 years, because the European policy is in blocks of 5 years, with each time a new commission, new parliament. And the world has been changing in the last 5 years. We went through different crises, and we maybe forget, but we had the big COVID crisis in the past 5 years. We had, of course, the climate challenge and climate crisis, energy crisis linked to the war in Ukraine. So ports were very much challenged on their economic resilience, and during the COVID, the supply chain kept on going and so on. So they showed that they have a lot of resilience. And also with the energy crisis, with the war in Ukraine, again, ports could and were asked to adapt with at sudden you had to deliver more LNG, etc. So it has been a very busy period. So if we look at this period, in the last commission, the flagship project was the Green Deal, being net zero by 2050. And this was then made concrete by the Fit for 55, which is concrete measures. It has been mentioned already a lot this morning. Onshore power supply, a very strict framework for ports to have by 2030. Then a path for the ships to decarbonize as well gradually, and an obligation to use onshore power. Then also shipping was brought in the EU ETS system, so a regional measure for, in fact, a global sector, which we see now, and certainly I think here in Spain, the consequences, the rerouting of ships, and so the carbon and business leakage. So, but this Fit for 55 was launched, and then we had the war in Ukraine. So then the policy reacted again, European policy with Repower EU. So they said we have to be less dependent from Russia. So by maybe making, in the short term, see that we have we step up maybe even the fossil energies, because we need to see that we have heating, that the economy can function, and at the same time speed up further this energy transition. And then after the Repower EU, then came the IRA in the US. So support being given in the US for a lot of industries, for energy intensive industries. So there again, a reaction of Europe. We also have to boost the economic side of the green transition. So, and they came with the Net Zero Industry Plan and Industry Act. So a lot of initiatives were taken to ease the permitting. So say that member states, regions should give easier permits for all green energy projects. And then before the elections, we had a new target, because we had the Fit for 55 on the Green Deal, Fit for 55 minus 55% by 2030. Before the elections, minus 90% in 2040. It's still an ambition. We don't know if there will be measures changing again all the measures that has been taken in the last 5 years. And then the weeks before the election, we have seen that there has been like a kind of crisis both in the industry, energy-intensive industry. We had an Antwerp declaration where a lot of energy-intensive industries have said, yeah, but we have high energy prices, higher than in the world around us, so this is not sustainable. The industry will go away. There is a problem with the competitiveness. At the same time, we have in many countries radical parties coming into power or being popular also before the European elections, because the Green Deal measures and the cost of all these measures also for the citizens came into the forefront. So then we had the European elections in spring last year, and we are now in the von der Leyen II, so the new commission. And end of February, we have the first 100 days of the new commission. And I mentioned the 100 days because it's a branding of Mrs. von der Leyen to the commission president to deliver a lot of things in the first 100 days. So what is to expect? And I will just mention some of the things that for this audience and for ports seems to be important. There has been a response to the signal of this call from the Antwerp Declaration from the unhappy citizens who are now a bit saying, is it not all going too green, too sustainable, too costly, etc. And so there is the new flagship, which is the Clean Industrial Deal. So there they want to, the Commission wants to combine decarbonization with competitiveness, but keeping the ambitions of the Green Deal. We don't know what will be in this Clean Industrial Deal, so on the 26th of February, this new flagship will come out. A second thing is that competitiveness is really the new buzzword. We had last week the competitive compass, like a first document saying how will this be tackled. They speak a lot about simplification, about, for instance, they want to diminish the reporting obligations for all businesses in Europe. There will be an omnibus measures, which means that they will look at how to diminish the reporting. The CSRD, so the sustainable reporting obligations, which are quite, if not a lot burdensome for you all, I think there might be that they change some things, but we don't know. So this is also in the weeks to come. Another important initiative is the reform of the budget. This is also seen, they want to reform, simplify the budget. There are too many programs, so they want to reform the budget. But there we have quite some concerns, because as you know, the main financing instrument for transport and also for ports at EU level is the Connecting Europe facility, which is based on the transport policy, transport infrastructure policy. And there the Commission, the plans that we saw, the drafts that we saw, wants to work with like a single national plan, so put transport together maybe with migration, with poverty, with different areas of policy into like one portfolio to give to the member state, a bit based like on the recovery fund, of course with some priorities, etc., also linked to reforms, etc., but you wouldn't have the European dedicated transport funding would be lost in a way, because then every member state decides within a certain framework what to do with the money. So, and there we think that there would be, this would be very negative for the transport network as such, because you know that, for instance, for the port of Bilbao, your hinterland bottleneck is maybe not in Spain, but maybe in France. I mean, you know, so it's, transport is a European network. So there, and we launched as ESPO, together we gathered 45 transport organizations. Yesterday an open letter to all, because we have to convince the finance ministers, the ministers who are in the General Affairs Council, not to do that, because transport is an enabler for each other policy in Europe. So this is an important thing. Another priority for the next Commission is strategic autonomy, economic security. Peter also mentioned it. So it's this new geopolitical, geoeconomic context, the military preparedness, defense. This will be also there, we wait for first initiatives, but this will be also an important paper for ports because they see an important role for ports in the whole military preparedness strategy of Europe. Also linked to that, for instance, if we talk about strategic autonomy, it's a bit like we have to be cautious. We have to be open but cautious for foreign influence in ports or foreign influence in Europe. Ports are strategic assets, and they are preparing a review of the foreign direct investment screening. So if foreign direct investors want to invest in Europe, there should be a screening. We are in favor of having a harmonized framework in Europe so that there is no shopping, but we have to see that you keep the balance, that you're not chasing away all the investors just because there might be a problem with one investor. So, but it remains to be seen. Implementation will be also a priority of this commission, and that is linked to this being more flexible, pragmatism. So maybe there we hope, because that with the Fit for 55 measures, they keep these measures, but for instance on onshore power supply, that there is some prioritization so that we can have a pragmatic, realistic implementation. Last but not least, there is an announcement of a new port strategy. And I think this is very important because it follows up on a Parliament report that was before the election, which puts the finger exactly on the foreign influence in ports and the dangers in a new geopolitical context that can be linked to that. But the Parliament report is also having a whole pillar on how to enforce the competitiveness of ports. So in that respect, we were quite positive about that report. But now there is this comprehensive port strategy in the making. 25 Directorate Generals of the Commission are being involved, so you can imagine how ports at once are in the center of the attention. It's nice to be in the center of the attention, but it's also dangerous. I mean, because, you know, if it leads to the wrong conclusions. So, but we see, I think, and we must see, and we as ESPO work on that, as a positive thing, because maybe we succeed in explaining ports, and it has been explained by Peter, also by all the people speaking here, how ports are changing. So what is important for us, it's what I say is, you know, ports are in economic transition, energy transition, but there is also the whole geopolitical transition and the geopolitical, geoeconomic resilience. So there is like a triangle, and ports are in this triangle. And I think every port is maybe, the military side will not be for every port, the energy side will not be for every port, or more limited, so everyone moves differently in this triangle, but this triangle, I see it as something for every port. And there is a lot of relations between these three challenges or these three pillars. Just some reflections. It was said ports are doing more than before. If they now move into these energy hubs, etc., it doesn't come instead of the logistic hub. It comes on top. Also with the military, the same thing, and all these, ports are asked to do more than before. And the new tasks that ports are taking up are often tasks with a lot more public general interest character. So they do things, they make investment, maybe not with such a certain or such a quick return on investment. So that is also important to know. And what we see is that you take risky investments. Is the business model of the port still valid? And I think Peter also touched a bit on that. The earning model based on tons, is this still the valid thing? Is this the right way? Tons was the first indicator. Now also at European level, they are now slowly considering also the contribution to the energy transition as a possible indicator. Space, and that was mentioned before, new energy needs a lot more space for conversion, for storage, for safety, less density, etc. You need also other modes, and we also have to see that if you combine energy and military preparedness, this is even more space, because you will have need, many ports in Europe will have to prepare for buffering capacity, for if at sudden there is a need to move for this, stepping up this resilience, unfortunately. Investments, huge investments are needed. Peter made a study for ESPO in the spring, and we came to the conclusion, based on a survey among ports, that there are 80 billion investment needs in the next 10 years. And this is where the port authorities have a role in the investment. So it excludes the pure private investments. Also, maintenance is also not included in this number. So you see that it's important. Energy and sustainability is the second important category of investment, but the first most important category is basic infrastructure, and there we must also acknowledge that, for instance, preparing for offshore wind, preparing for transport of CO2 will require investments in basic infrastructure. Then what we also need to see is, now, and we understand, we hear that the Commission and the Commission President is attaching a lot of importance to ports as hubs of energy. So they say, oh, ports have an important role to play as hubs of energy. And it's very right, but what we have to be careful with is what can we do, what is within the remit of the Port Authority, port managing body, and what is beyond. Because, for instance, on the availability of alternative fuels for the shipping, ports are not operators of fuel stations, of bunkering stations. So this is something that we will have to see. The port can work on port readiness, on seeing safe bunkering protocols, etc., on attracting the investments, etc., but they are not operators of the, so there the landlord model continues to play. But this being said, I think for ports like Bilbao, who have also this industry cluster, there is a role to play as landlord, as manager of the whole energy model. So there we have to see, but that is more for the industry side. Competitiveness is very important. For ports, we have to close the gap between EU and neighboring ports. If Europe is having a lot of ambition, it's very good, and I think we need to support that. But if we look at concrete measures, we have to see that we avoid increasing this unlevel playing field, because this is not helping the decarbonization neither. Ships can move, ports cannot move. Last, I think port planning is an important point, because, and it was also Peter is the academic. I'm just he explains it a lot better probably, but the world is changing very quickly, and as ports, it's heavy assets, long-term planning, so this is a big challenge. We don't know, for instance, for the greening of shipping, what the shipping will do. There won't be one solution, probably different solution. Price is an important element in all the decisions that will be made, and energy price is very much influenced by geopolitics. So there as well, it's a very turbulent times. So just to finalize, I think each port has its story, its history, but also wants to build its future. And this story and build on this history, on this story, the future will be different for many ports. And if we now if Europe builds a port strategy, we hope that it's explaining this picture, explaining this, and not putting the ports in a straitjacket, but give them the tools, the space, and the support to pursue their strategy. And I think here in Bilbao, we are in, I think, one of the very good examples of a port that is changing in a changing world and changing in the good way. So I think challenging times, but good times if we have the good policy framework. But I would like to thank you for your attention.
ISABELLE RYCKBOST, Secretaria General de la ESPO, la Organización Europea de Puertos Marítimos. Thank you so much